Ever wanted some Star Wars or Star Trek in your D&D? Too bad, you get the most nonsensical hodgepodge of pseudoscience and steaming garbage this tabletop game has ever seen. Welcome to a setting that makes as much sense as the film Space Jam, where the Looney Tunes fight aliens using basketball solely because they are short. Well, they were short. The Looney Tunes underestimated the aliens' ability to steal years of experience and physiology from famous athletes. They should have just, stepped on them, shot them in the head. I got off track immediately. Today we're exploring Spelljammer, the worst setting I've ever looked at, and the only spacefaring setting currently in Dungeons & Dragons. Aside from Planescape, but we will put a pin in that one. I will mention Planescape because I've grown to love it, especially thanks to Planescape Torment. The main blessings pulled from the mental wreckage of this concept are the Nautiloids, featured in Baldur's Gate 3. These are kick-ass spaceships based on the barely biologically functional cephalopods loosely featured in the titular fossil and Pokemon Omanite. I have a million things to explore about this insane setting, so let me punch your ticket and rattle through the stops that we have to make. This video will take us through the origin of the setting in the real world, why the setting was created in the first place, what the hell it even is or tried to be, what a Spelljammer is, like the Nautiloid ships and the pilots who guided them, and the countless shapes these vessels take, as well as some of the major failings, like what the cosmos looks like in these settings, what crystal spheres and wild spaces are, some of the more important planar monsters like hippo gunmen and space clowns, and why this setting was so truly awful to the point where it was fully replaced, and what we can salvage from it like space pirates ourselves. And also the super racist Hadozee that I just found out about in the middle of editing. I found their description in the monster book, but oh, I didn't know about the player race. Man, that is a lot to cover. So let's blitz through the actual history first. The year is 1989. Topman Warcury from One Piece just knocked down the Berlin Wall. 20 years ago we crashed on the moon and Star Wars was still fresh in our minds. TSR, through the power of a grub named Giff, decided to delve into the multiverse through the power of space travel, releasing the box set Spelljammer, Advanced D&D Adventures in Space. The setting featured wild space, phlogiston, and spaceships called, well, Spelljammers. They're basically wind jammers, ships with sails that catch magical thought energy instead of air. It was somewhat well received, even though Wikipedia notes in 2 separate articles one critic fucking hated it, spitting up his lunch 100 times and giving it a 2 out of 5. In 1992, we even got a published DOS game called Pirates of Realm Space, where you could run gopher missions in Realm Space. I'd rather play Doom or Lemmings, but hey, it exists. Speaking of merging different hobbies, today's sponsor is a bit of an unusual one. Thank you to Fan Fusion, an all-encompassing fandom convention in Phoenix, Arizona. Last year, the event hosted over 130,000 guests, and this year they're going big mode. With a lot more events, a huge section called Game Tabletopia, gotta love topias, that's specifically dedicated to our type of nerds. There's a huge area loaded with free-play arcade cabinets, themed wrestling events like Donkey Kong vs. Luigi, and a lot of classic convention stuff. There's a little something for every fan at the Fusion. Cosplay is wildly encouraged, and anyone level 12 or under gets in for free. So people my age, you can bring your tykes along. Fan Fusion passes are on sale now, and the event happens from June 5th to June 7th. So if you want to grab passes or join the newsletter for updates, click the link below. Okay, where was I? Tragically, this was before we got Space Jam in my birth year, 1996. A movie about golfing, spit shining, sexy-ass rabbits, and water that gives you guns. Tragically, also in the 90s, TSR decided to take the setting out to pasture because it made no goddamn sense whatsoever. That one angry critic was actually right, and I completely agree. For some reason, we pumped blood into the shriveled corpse of Spelljammer in 2022, and it's kind of a cool revitalization. But back then, D&D in space was handled as well as a 90s kid's childhood or an unprotected iPad in the hands of a 2-year-old on a gondola going up a mountain. Instead of using using normal space rules, we got as much pseudoscience as possible shoved up the ass of this setting. Geocentrism, astral spheres, the astral mysticism that Plato and Aristotle farted out, and my favorite fifth element aside from love, phlogisticism. Adding a little detail here, this is an esoteric element that supposedly existed in all combustible bodies and was released through burning or rusting. The Spelljammer proposition is that the outer space is an infinite ocean or source of the enigmatic fuel, but still, ancient fire lakes in space are just the beginning. Yes sirree Bob, at this point I'm gonna have to ask you to strap in your seatbelt because we're going to Nonsense Town at light speed. I might have to explain some of this shit using Stranger Things type logic with a shoestring, 2 dog toys, and a Hot Wheel because it is insane. To make this as simple as possible, let's start in a tavern. That tavern is on a continent. That continent is on a planet, let's say Toril from D&D's main setting. That planet likely circles a sun in what we'll call a satellite system among other planets. Between each planet in this system is a place called wild space, devoid of matter but still breathable, especially if you're going planet to planet in a Spelljammer ship. Now we're gonna drink the stupid juice. Those planets in that wild space are inside a crystal sphere, which is like a solar system or a big planet inside of a jar. Crystal spheres float around aimlessly, isolated from each other in a giant sea of fifth element called phlogiston, which collectively is just like a big wild space. Luckily for us, they got rid of phlogiston and merged it with the astral sea, which is different but the same as the astral plane. Also, each crystal sphere contained a different wild space, which I'll rattle off later, and some were geocentric or complete nonsense, but each space had a primary celestial body like the sun or an earth. These crystal spheres contained all the rules and species of local realities, which would be any exclusive D&D setting, and local gods couldn't leave their spheres or affect other ones. Although, in Phlogiston, or the Silver Sea, you could encounter the corpses of dead gods, because, shut up, I don't know. I think some of these spheres pop or explode, and there's at least one dead one. We'll get to that. So, let's zoom back into the tavern because we're almost done. You're a little guy, or gal, or pal, and you dream of space. Suddenly, the Baldur's Gate 3 intro happens and a Nautiloid crashes right in your backyard. You better run over there and grab that puppy, because if you can use magic, you can hit the sky. This, my dear little astronauts, is your Spelljammer. Leaving your planet puts you in wild space, inside your sphere. To leave your sphere, you need a portal or a planetary port. These are holes in the spheres that only Spelljammers can utilize and pop through. The Spelljammer itself is a whole separate ordeal that I will also have to explain later. But once you're in the Silver Sea of Phlogiston, you can use your brain and the ship to go window shopping for other spheres, and try to find portals inside. That's how you navigate this multiverse, and that's how Spelljammer works. Pardon my French, but that's fucking stupid and convoluted. If your brain is melted, we're in the same boat. Thank you, Spelljammer. So we've left the tavern, stolen our first Spelljammer, and we're out to sea. Let's visit some spheres or spaces. There's too many. Let's get started. Realm Space, also known as the Sea of Night. This is the Forgotten Realms locale, D&D's go-to setting and the one that we all play in. There's also Grey Space, the geocentric system of Greyhawk, the one that Gygax's universe takes place in. Kryn Space, the Dragonlance system and setting, and sphere. Those are the normal ones. Then we get to Hero Space, where 9 suns and 9 planets circle each other and only heroes are allowed inside. There's Great Space, a warless and advanced system whose center looks like Cloud City from Star Wars. Dark Space, a dead system ruled by a vampire that doesn't like Great Space. Dark Space is also an enigmatic ambient black metal Swiss band. I don't know what that means. Doom Space, a shattered system obliterated by jealous gods. Fairy Space, dominated by a giant tree with 16 suns that are fruits hanging from the tree. Cluster Space, a complicated system and possible origin for the Mind Flayer colonies. And those are the less normal ones. We have more. Zerixa Space, home to the strangely important astral elves. Vodon Space, A space from some podcast that has a book's worth of lore I don't care about and could not actually find. Atha Space, an attempt at adding the Dark Sun setting to Spelljammer even though that's actually impossible according to its own internal rules. And lastly, but possibly most importantly, Clown Space. Space clowns come from here. I wonder where the inspiration for this bad space came from. I don't know. But we're done with all those realms, so let's move on to one of the best and maybe only good part of Spelljammer, the Spelljammers. What is a Spelljammer? You might be wondering, but probably not. A Spelljammer is essentially a merger of three things. Firstly, a ship. These vessels are the only things that can move through the Silver Sea of Phlogiston, and dozens of models have different features. Secondly, a Spelljammer is the captain. I really like that idea, and when researching this, I thought of Queen Anne's Revenge, or the Saber of Zebek if you're cool like me. When you hear that name, it's synonymous with the arrival of Blackbeard, the demon of the sea. So it makes sense that the captain and their ship are one and the same, the Spelljammer. Only someone who can cast spells can become a Spelljammer, since a big brain makes the ship go burr through the sky. Yes, I did my homework and I watch pirate stuff. A helmsman is wildly distinct from a captain, and on larger ships like Giff vessels, they have one of each, so I think that technically means that there's 4. And that's funny, because a small-brained barbarian who took the magic initiate feat can technically scream their way through the skies in a Nautiloid. Thirdly, the helm. This is the gamer chair, or tentacle network used to merge the previous two and set sail. The spelljamming helm converts magic into motion, and my partner said that piloting one feels like trying to move a phantom limb. It's hard and weirdly numb, but it works really well. Like my penis after jerking it too much. Also, for larger ships, like that foot-long from Spaceballs, had backup helms that could be hijacked by pirates. All of these Spelljammers have their own mini spheres of air, localized centered gravity, and the Silver Sea was essentially a big ocean of flammable gasoline, so no fuel was actually needed. And these puppies were rumored to go up to 100 million miles a day, which is slower than farts leaving my ass compared to the speed of light. I have no idea why they tried to clarify a speed in nonsense space. I figured it out, it's because of average planetary distances. Look at the table. Fiction like Marvel regularly ignores distances and travel time, so if that speed is right, nobody gets anywhere ever. Let's look at some spelljamming vessels. The wiki has like 100 different types, so we're gonna race through like just 10 or so. These ships looked like fish, bugs, seafaring vessels, and just about any toy you could find in a 90s kid's toy box. Like a fucking Bionicle floating through space. Starting off with the crowd favorite, the Nautiloid. These bad boys were designed for infinite sailing and no docking, had tentacles that could beam up new slaves from any planet that they visited, and had the unique ability to teleport not just between crystal spheres, but planes of existence, which otherwise were unreachable by spelljamming ships. That might have been a retcon because of Baldur's Gate, but I'll never know. The Giff, space hippo mercenaries, used bombards, long ships with enormous cannons that would one-shot spelljammers they pursued. They essentially drove guns around. Damselflies were fast and sturdy. Flying fish and space galleons were the most commonly used. Hammerheads carried heavy cargo. Living ships were like spacefaring treants. And also, I really like the living ships from No Man's Sky. Look at my achievements really quick, I'm very proud of that, I love that game. Night spiders were used by racist, xenophobic slavers that I made a video on. Scorpion ships were cool. We also had, turtles, beholders, the Millennium Falcon, pizza on some jets, S-tier orbs, and I'm tired, we're done. That's it for potato ships. This setting got really, really big and was kind of interesting to explore even though it's non-functional. And most of the monsters are actually really fucking cool, like the ships. The setting itself just sucks unwashed toes. Firstly, the Giff, not GIF. Or GIF, or GIF. These are musket-wielding, spacefaring, 7-foot-tall hippo militia people who are given a rank at birth and have to climb them all through feats of orderly, capitalistic piracy and battle. Astral elves are an ancient race of elves who thought God was literally up, so they went up and got magic powers once they entered space. They're elves, I don't know. Neogi, I made a video about them already. They suck and they're evil. Noir, I don't have to say a single thing for for you to fall in love with them. Same goes for space guppies. Mercanes, giant but harmless space merchants with crazy magic item stocks. Rhaegar, weirdly awesome and powerful cuttlefish humanoids who could clone themselves in battle. They're surprisingly powerful and they're really important. The space clowns. Giant space hamsters. See, the setting has its upsides too. Also, Boo, the incredible hero, is a miniature giant space hamster. Zodar, enigmatic metal aberrations who remind me a lot of Alien X if you want to go ahead and read their lore. And the horrendously infamous Hadozee. There's a profound problem with these space monkeys that somehow got overlooked or accepted into the official lore of the physical copies of the recent release. Though it was heavily retconned and the lore page on the wiki says that it was a lie, here's what it basically was, or is. The Hadozee, slightly interesting primates with a knack for rope climbing, and flying squirrel skin flaps they used to jet around the air spheres of Spelljammers, used to be savages.
Barely even human!
A really epic and awesome wizard found their home planet Ysir, physically trapped and stole them, gave them an experimental Mojo Jojo elixir that taught them how to be civilized and smart, with the intent to sell them to the highest bidder. What a crack in the jaw learning that was. I just thought they were Super Saiyans, but actually they're... Man, any descriptor beyond this point feels gross. That was the 2022 race guide for the player's book to get into character, by the way. In AD&D, they just look like Alf with wings. So, sorry, but that's gonna be some docked points. Let's move on. Plasmoids, who I tried to make a video about like 2 years ago, they're not good. The Giff, I did a video on them too. We also have lunar and solar dragons, hateful meteorites, and Surlons, which is just the penis guy from Persona. Okay, we're done. God, this is a big topic. Let's look at why it failed, what works, and how, if at all, we can salvage this setting. Firstly, the crystal spheres. That shit was stupid. It's way too convoluted. Nobody anywhere was asking for a fantasy version of solar systems. I don't want to learn that I live on a flat earth pizza disc slice, and to get to the other slices I need to purchase a fourth dimensional crab and visit the stomach of the guy who ate it like 5 years ago in the future. Just let me teleport around, please. D&D has never accounted for travel or travel time in a consistently fun way. We don't need that compounded with a 3-point scale system when I want to go buy a sandwich in another solar system. And that's why they actually replaced the entire concept of this whole setting. Did you know that the beautiful wonder that is Planescape was partly a patch job for Spelljammer? Spelljammer suffered from not having any hub that the party could rely on beside their ship, so they gave us a donut at the top of a mountain. A quick quiz for people who know things and watch my videos. How do you pronounce this word? If you said sigil, you'd get laughed at and cut into pieces in my favorite city, Sigil, the heart of Planescape. Another failing of Spelljammer, there's way too many racist slavers. That's about half the original content, by the way, so... Also, phlogiston. I ought to slap that grub that decided that something like that would be cool in D&D. The whole concept of merging every D&D setting into one traversable space just does not work. The last thing I would ask from D&D is to merge the Tesseract universe that I poured 8 years of my heart and soul into with some kid's high school campaign from D&D horror stories where everyone is sexist and flirts with their party members, even though every character is modeled after a shitty version of an Avenger. But you know what does work? Everything else. Gamers love airships. I love space clowns, and I love that animation by Worthakids called The Wire. And Spelljammer lets us actually have clowns versus vampires from those two spheres. I love penguin people, I love hippo people.
I like 'em big, I like 'em chunky.
The flying fish are cool, giant hamsters slap. Any goofy take on animals that isn't just more Lola Bunny or sexy wolf ripping shirt is good. I don't even care if the Giff make you horny, that's fine. So how do we try and salvage Spelljammer? We take the ships and the helms, we drop the spellcasting requirements, we load these things up with goofy animals from the setting like Noah's Ark, and we get the hell out of here. And we go back to the wheel cosmology. Maybe the ships are imbued with cubic gates, kinda like the Treasure Planet pirate pirate from the beginning, or the Baldur's Gate intro, where they can warp between connected realms reliably, and then just have a slammin' space jammin' time above the clouds on any planet. I want to bundle up all of this and have like a Laputa, castle in the sky style adventure that would make Miyazaki's sad soul vanilla cream with delight. Anyway, that was Spelljammer, a very long video about a mostly failed and dated topic, with some good stuff and some generic nonsense. So please let me know what you think, what your takes are, and how you want to handle it yourself. Engagement helps both me and weddings, so if you're lazy, just type Space Jam and slam that enter key. Unless it's jammed. I don't know. I love you. Thank you. Good night. I'm tired.